Okay, we're set.
Thank you, Joanne, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 1st, 2023 meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission. We'll open with the roll call. Ms. Hostetter.
Here. Okay, we're set.
Thank you, Joanne, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the. What was that all about? That was weird.
Sorry, I didn't turn the YouTube was, I didn't turn the volume off. I'm sorry.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Let's start the roll call again. Ms. Hostetter.
Here.
Mr. Chiocchio.
Here.
Mr. Sylvain.
Here.
Mr. Haas.
Here.
The Chairman Finaldi is here. Mr. Haas, would you sit in as a regular member this evening?
Yes.
Thank you. Commission members, the minutes of the January 18th, 2023 meeting were previously distributed. Unless there's any comments or discussion, I will entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the minutes of the meeting of January 18th, 2023. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes are accepted. The next regular meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission is scheduled for February 15th, 2023. Before we move on to the rest of our agenda, I'll read the standard Zoom meeting intro. This meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission is being held on Zoom as a virtual meeting. Even though this meeting is a virtual meeting, members of the public and interested parties continue to have the opportunity to participate in the meeting in a couple of different ways. You can participate via Zoom and see the audio and the video, or you can call in by phone and participate via audio only. Please be aware that we may have to mute your microphone or telephone to avoid an echo or some other background noise. Instructions on how to participate in the meeting appear on the City of Danbury website, and all of the documents and materials that apply to the matters to be discussed during this meeting, including the agenda, are also available on the City of Danbury website. As always, if you have any questions regarding how to participate in the meeting, please contact the City of Danbury Planning and Zoning Department. As a reminder, the entire meeting will be posted on and can be seen on the City of Danbury website. We will follow the posted agenda as per standard practice. If prior to the meeting, any questions or comments on agenda items were submitted via email to the Planning and Zoning Department, those comments will be read during the appropriate portion of the meeting. Finally, please remember that technology glitches do sometimes occur. Please be patient if that happens. With that said, we'll move right to the first item on our agenda for discussion and possible action. The capital improvement plan for financial year 23 to 24. And I believe Sharon will be leading us through that. Sharon, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Sharon Calitro, I'm the planning director. So I submitted to you the department's recommended capital improvement program for FY 23-24 through 28-29. It's hard to believe when you see those numbers, but so the program consists of 3 PDFs that were on the agenda. The full 6-year program, the capital budget for FY 23-24, and the list of unfunded projects for the upcoming fiscal year 23-24. Project identified as potentially eligible to use a portion of the ARPA funds, as we had last year, are identified on the plan, on both the 6-year program and the capital budget, with those amounts shown, and the use of those funds will require the subsequent vetting and approval by the mayor and the city council during that public process. Again, much the same as occurred last year. And I'll get into more specifics about ARPA in a minute. And those projects must meet the eligibility requirements of the Department of Treasury. By charter, as you know, the department is responsible for coordinating all the city departments' requests for capital improvement projects and for preparing the CIP for your approval. The 6-year program represents the expenditures of funds for capital projects for the purpose of conserving resources and promoting the orderly development of the city. Each year we go through this process. We look at projects that are completed, projects that are started, priorities that come up, and we do some shifting around and try to address the needs of the city the best we can. As you know, the CIP process is separate from the operational budgeting that for the departments, but both of those things and others are included in the mayor's proposed budget for the fiscal year, which would be released sometime in April. The funding sources for the capital projects and programs are identified on each of the spreadsheets. I'll just run through them fast. The general fund capital is basically capital that's allocated out of the tax revenues that are collected based on the mill rate. New bonds that must be authorized, and as you'll see and we can talk about, there's a new bond totaling $115 million identified for water system projects. Notes that have to be issued, so the city can issue $3 million in notes each year without having to go back to council. LoCIP funding, which is a local capital improvement program, which funds projects, and those projects, there's requirements for those projects, and they are dependent on the state funding. And then there's this CDBG program, which is a capital development, community development, block grant fund program that is received by the city directly from the federal government. There's federal and state grants for eligible projects, and some are, I think, indicated in there. And then enterprise funds, which consist of the ambulance fund, animal control fund, water and sewer, and those are generated by user fees. And then again, the ARPA projects. So we can, again, the full program, the 6-year program, is presented to you. I'd like to try to focus on the 1-year capital budget because that's kind of what we're seeing for immediate next year, FY 23-24. So again, those reflect, or our proposal reflects our continued commitments to some of those projects, and including lease payments for several projects, and then new projects. And we also try to focus on the use of what comes out of the general fund. Again, not wanting to utilize more than we'd like to out of the general, that are raised by taxes, which would be in the general fund capital category. Again, the list of unfunded projects are on the 3rd spreadsheet, and those are kind of didn't make the cut for this year, but we understand that those are needs. City has a lot of needs, departments have a lot of needs. We just try to chip away at it the best we can, and then in the most fiscally prudent way we can. So, and by charter, we have to send the approved program to the mayor and city council by the 15th of February. So here we are. Okay, so I'll just walk you through the capital budget, the proposed FY 23-24 capital budget, or you can just chime in if you have any questions. I did talk to Commission Member Kyokyo, Vice Chair Kyokyo earlier today, and answered some of his questions. So in terms of the airport, there's a project, the majority of which is funded from a grant from the FAA, and there's a small little portion that's the city's. Under construction services, there's typical bridge repair, sidewalk repair, playground safety servicing, and playscape repairs. The west side field turf replacement, which is soon to be out of warranty and gets a lot of use. It needs to be replaced, and some money for environmental remediation. Several of those projects were deemed to be ARPA eligible. The council did approve allocation of funds for those projects last year. So we put them in that category. Emergency management, it's continued investment in replacement of generators. He has a whole program of replacement. Engineering, there's bridges, there's bridge inspections, there's some MS4 money allocated to comply with the MS4 permit requirements, citywide transportation and design permitting to get going on some engineering to enable us to apply for grants. There's the Upper Still River Basin project, which is an analysis that we're sharing with the feds. Or the Army Corps of Engineer feds. So we've allocated some additional funding for that. Railroad crossings, as you can imagine. Now, some of the railroad crossings on state roads like Main Street would be paid for by the state, but there are railroad crossings on city streets that the city would have to pay for the construction costs. In terms of the fire department, there's pumpers and vehicles and
Aaron, if I could just,
tools. Yep.
quick second, Arnie, just give it, I think it's one of the largest items, if not the largest line item. It was under the railroad crossing, citywide fiber optic transportation cable. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the city was just, or Westcog just voted to approve the use of $6.6 million from the LOTSIP funding that comes through the COG to various projects in the region to install a fiber optic trunk cable. And that will enable them to do traffic control and install cameras with the latest technology and be able to, work their magic when traffic is a big tie up throughout the city. They'll be able to monitor it and activate these devices. So that's what that is. It's the largest allocation in Westcog's history to a project, and it's fully funded under the program. So that was a biggie. Yeah, so it's almost $7 million. Okay, so back to fire, equipment, basically really equipment and some station upgrading. Fire school training, which I think they're starting, and some additional funding for communication. Again, a lot of the ARPA is emergency management related and safety, police and fire. So you'll see a lot of the allocations and use of public land for parks and things like that are to address COVID related, people are outside using parks and playgrounds and things like that. So those are normal and eligible projects. Forestry, tree trimming, that's a LOSIP eligible project. A highway, we try to focus on equipment because their equipment is big and expensive, and paving and drainage. So last year's paving number was about 3.2 million. We added, we bumped it up a couple $100,000 this year. And that's kind of the normal range. Several years ago, out of the SNAP bond, there were like $7 or $9 million worth of paving. I mean, that was the big paving push, but on an annual basis, we're more around the $3 million mark. Vehicles, pool fleet vehicles, which are the city vehicles, and street lights and fence replacement programs. IT, there's a whole bunch of projects that are required to keep the city running, keep the city safe and not vulnerable. So there are several projects, many projects under that department. Park maintenance, against the Rogers Park lighting program replacement. So we try to give an allocation for that, and some underground irrigation system upgrades and improvements which are necessary. Under planning, we've added some ARPA funds for the engineering study for relocation of the pulse point. And as you may remember from the TOD study and the POCD, that is moving the pulse point from its current location on Kennedy to a portion of the lot that is currently owned by Eversource over by the train station, and then connecting them by a bridge. What I'd like to do is try to get the engineering, I mean, I'm obviously not an engineer, but, and we work with Public Works, but get that project engineered from the conceptual layout that we saw as part of our studies, so that we're shovel ready for other funding, because that's what they like to fund, projects that are ready to go. So I've been working on that. Police, again, there's equipment, a lot of equipment, which is necessary for them to do their jobs. Public buildings, the HVAC program, we allocate money for every year, the roof program. And then there's a major project at the War Memorial Building. They need to remove an underground storage tank, and they'll have to replace it with an above ground. And then in the schools, while I know there continues to be, like many school projects on this list, they were also undertaking a huge school project. But we thought it would be necessary to allocate some funding to do some duct cleaning work throughout the rest of the buildings. Recycling and solid waste, some grading at the old landfill, Tarrywall Park, an allocation out of LoCIP funding because those are eligible in public parks. And then you'll see that we have 2 leases and lease payments that need to be made. And then there's an allocation from the, some allocation of funding from the sewer fund for 3 sewer projects. And then the water department and water fund allocation are the projects that would be undertaken as part of this $115 million bond that is being proposed. That bond was presented to council. There was a hearing of the committee of the whole last week, and I believe it should be on next week's agenda, as I understand it, to move that to a referendum sometime shortly. And there's several projects. They focus. It's probably a 4 to 5 year. I know Bob asked me this today. How long will it take to do all those projects? They're anticipating 4 to 5 years because there's multiple sites. They're going to have multiple engineers, multiple contractors at multiple sites doing various things, focusing on the treatment plants, on the infrastructure, and then there's these other requirements that need to be met for to meet new mandates. So, and as I indicated to him, in terms of the treatment plants, Westlake, the last upgrade was in 1982, which is 41 years, and Marjorie was in 1998, so 25 years. So the treatment plants need some upgrading. And so with all that totals, aside from the bond, about just over 31 million for the year. And that excludes the ambulance fund and the sewer fund. So I take the total general government projects and the general government leases, you know, absent the 115 million, because that's kind of stands out, but it's comparable to last year's, I would say. I could tell you the general fund capital category was a little bit higher last year, and that was because we were able to shift some money. If you go back and look at the budget for projects that were either completed and have leftover funds, so they reallocated those funds to help cover the costs. But so that was about 5 million last year. We're a little bit lower this year. So with that, I will answer any questions. Again, you know, the 6-year program, the FY 23-24 columns are obviously the same on the capital budget and the 6-year program, and then the other projects are kind of amortized out, I would say. But we go back and look at them every year.
Any comments or questions for Sharon at this time, committee members, commission members? A lot of hard work went into this, Sharon. Thank you. You know, it's funny, from the POCD, we know that Danbury is apparently a desirable place to live based on demand for housing, and but it costs a lot of money to keep this city moving forward. We're an old city, and like you said, a lot of upgrades. When was the year on the Marjorie Reservoir? 1982.
Marjorie, no, Marjorie was 98. Westlake water treatment plant, 1982.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that like, those aren't small little things.
No,
Yes, no.
costs a lot of money to keep this city moving forward, a lot, just to keep everything.
Yeah, and we have to balance, you know, we have to balance our needs with the you know, our resources. And I mean, there's a limit to what you want to borrow, and you know, it's a balancing act. So we try to make, not everybody's happy all the time, but just keep running, and I think we're doing a good job, just as you indicated, by virtue of many successes. So
You mean you don't just say yes to every request from every department, Sharon?
I can't even understand some of the requests. In fact, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I told this about today. When I got the request from the PD, and they had that almost $1 million in the 1 year, I called them up and I said, the person that does it, and I was like, you must have made a mistake, because you know your allocation is about 450, 500,000 a year. He's like, oh no, it's not. It's no mistake. I was like, really? And it's a supply chain, ordering, when they get to order, how they move cars in and out. And so, they're not going to spend necessarily $1 million, but, having that allocation allows them to purchase it, throughout the course, what time. So yeah, sometimes I laugh, sometimes I scream, sometimes they can't find, right, Jen? $1,000 I'm off and I got to check everything. So
Well,
the math lesson.
thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
Very thorough job again. And thank you so much. Any questions or comments for Sharon? Commission members, anything? Okay, well, I think we do have to take a vote to approve. So unless there's anything else, I will entertain a motion to approve the capital improvement plan as submitted.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Second,
Motion made and seconded to approve the capital improvement plan 23-24. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The plan is approved. Thank you very much, Sharon.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Looking at our agenda, we have no new public hearings this evening. Under continuation of public hearings, item 1, Sugar Hollow Associates LLC, application for revised special exception, revised site plan for the shops at Marcus Dairy. For 1, new standalone fast food restaurants, section 5A2B16 with drive-through window, section 3E8. And 2, cumulative trip generation in excess of 500 vehicle trips per day, sections 3E2 in the CG20 zone, 5 Sugar Hollow Road and Bacchus Avenue. G17002 special exception 660. I think we refer to this as the Panera application. I think we do. I will turn it over. Well, no, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Dinas, sorry for that. Are you there?
Good, yep. Good evening. Sorry, I'm trying to hit the unmute button. Dinas Verbicus, professional engineer, for the record here on behalf of the applicant. And I see the applicant is also here in the in my computer, the lower right corner, Mr. Neil Marcus.
Good evening.
And we'll try and keep it brief. At the last meeting of the commission, we had discussed several items that still needed to be addressed or taken care of. And of those items, they're still pending, although not nothing crazy. I don't think. There was a request made for an updated survey, to which the land surveyor is in the process of working on. We are waiting for comments from FAA. Last we checked at about 6 p.m. today, the application was still pending. However, we did receive a positive outlook from Mr. Safranek from the Danbury Airport. So we feel confident that things will go as we would like them to with respect to the FAA review. We did submit updated drawings this afternoon to staff. These updated drawings were the same drawings as presented at the last meeting, with the exception of 4 light poles located in and around the proposed Panera pad site. These light poles are placed just to supplement or to replace existing poles that'll be removed in order to put the Panera building and parking as proposed. But for the most part, the lighting on site will remain the same. And I think that covers the items that were still outstanding. And happy to have Attorney Marcus speak if he would like, or Jennifer if she would like to chime in. And I'll give the floor open to someone else.
Dinas,
it's Neil Marcus, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record. Neil Marcus, Commonwealth PC 158 Deer Hill Avenue. On behalf of Sierra Hollow Associates, I think that Dynas has actually presented the current status. I think we have pretty much completed the application presentation. And the only thing we really are waiting to hear from is the FAA. And I think you have a good reason to believe, based on Mike Safranak's report in the record, that we should anticipate no issue with the FAA. They've approved all the buildings in the shopping center previously, and the height of this building is consistent with the other buildings on the site. So I think we're going to be okay. It's just a question of when we're going to hear from them. So at this point, absent any commission or public or staff questions, I think we've pretty much completed the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Marcus. At this point, commission members, any questions for Dynas or Attorney Marcus? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? All right, Jen. So Mike Safranek is okay. We're waiting for the final word from the FAA. I guess we can close it, but just not act on it until we get the final FAA sign off. Does that sound like a reasonable way to move forward?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. We did receive a conditional letter from Mike Safranek. Again, when we'd had the last public hearing, he hadn't seen the obstruction analysis submitted to FAA. He has since seen that. He's seen the heights submitted. He feels, that there won't be any issues, but he is awaiting that final obstruction analysis from the FAA. So once that's received, we'll have a final staff report from him, and then we'll be, I don't see a reason why you can't close it tonight. We can receive his staff report after the close of the hearing. With respect to the other outstanding issues, as Dynas mentioned, we are awaiting that updated A2 survey to reflect existing conditions. We're also awaiting an updated rendering. If you recall, it was mentioned at the last meeting.
Right.
And as Dynas said, he's shown the site lighting. That was an outstanding comment. We have not seen those plans yet, but I don't see an issue with the site lighting either. And we're also waiting for sign off from the engineering department. Again, these are not deal breakers. You can certainly close the hearing if you so choose.
Thanks, Jen. Commission members, anyone, based on what you've heard, have any objection to closing the hearing this evening? I mean, there are some open items, but as Jen said, they're more or less timing issues rather than deal breakers. So we've heard a lot of, we've heard a lot on this application already. We had this one sort of FAA thing still hanging there that's been addressed, a couple of other things. Anyone want to make a motion to close?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any issues for closing it, so I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that. I don't see any issue either.
Thanks, Helen. Okay, motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed. This public hearing is closed. And Jen, you'll keep us posted on the open items. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can you make a motion to move it for discussion so the commission can provide guidance?
Sure. I'll entertain a motion to move this to item 2 under old business for discussion and possible action. Anyone want to make the motion? Helen's making it. Do I hear a second?
Second.
By Perry. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Opposed. This item is just moved to number 2 under old business for discussion and possible action. We will now go to item 1 under our old business for discussion and possible action agenda, Ye Old Road LLC application for special exception site plan approval. For proposed commercial building for storage of building materials and construction equipment and outdoor storage of building materials and construction equipment, section 3E4, 6A2B14, 615 in the IL 40 zone, 2 Ye Old Road, E17066, special exception number 770. The draft resolution of approval with conditions is dated January 26, 2023. Jen, are you going to walk us through that?
I am, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So the resolution, again, you have the standard whereases. I won't go through those. They're, just the backstory on the project. Of particular note, one of the whereases, we talk about the airport. If you recall, this is in the, it's not in the approach zone, it's in the transition district. So that required the obstruction analysis, which we received after the close of the hearing, actually. And Mike Safranek again wrote a letter saying that he had no objections based off of the FAA's analysis. So included that whereas, and then moving forward to the conditions. Number 3, the outdoor storage area shall be restricted to the areas shown on the approved site plan referenced in Exhibit A. The drive aisles within the storage yard as shown on the approved site plan shall remain free and clear of any debris, materials, and/or equipment at all times. 4, the outdoor storage, sale, rental of any materials and/or equipment is prohibited in the front yard setback. The on-site drainage shall remain private and regularly maintained. Number 8. So if you recall, right before we closed the hearing, we had received some comments from our traffic engineer pertaining to additional conveyances he was looking for. And there was no time to revise the plans. So we've added a condition number 8. The applicant shall revise the plans to show the additional conveyance requested in the email correspondence dated January 9th, 2023 from the traffic engineer. Said plan shall be revised to the satisfaction of planning and zoning and the city traffic engineer and written evidence submitted to the CEO. Again, once they show those conveyances, we'll take a look, make sure it doesn't impact anything with zoning, and the traffic engineer will review as well. We've got the condition for the CEO shall obtain verification from the airport administrator that the plans as approved herein and as submitted for permit review do not result in any increase in the height of the building. I think we did this condition for the Chipotle application. So it's what I call a belt and suspenders type condition. The airport administrator's already signed off. However, sometimes, the plans change when they come in for permits, not necessarily the site plan, but the building changes. And that we don't always catch that. That's the permit center. And sometimes, it changes and the airport administrator doesn't know. So what this one condition says is we've got to send the plans to the airport administrator. He's going to double check that it's exactly as he approved through the special exception. So again, it's just another layer to make sure that building is as one the airport administrator has signed off on and the FAA has signed off on. Prior to zoning compliance, the approved planting plan must be planted in accordance with the landscape plan. The 6-foot high view restrictive fence to be located along the perimeter of the property is to be installed. All work within the right of way. And again, remember all the conveyances and they're actually doing that right of way, those right of way improvements. So this condition shall be coordinated and completed to the satisfaction of DPW, including the road widening of Yield Road and the installation of the concrete driveway aprons and concrete curbing. All work within the right of way related to the road widening and the installation of the utilities require curb to curb restoration as determined by construction services. Number 15 takes care of that land conveyance. Again, they convey that parcel to the city. There's a process for that. They go through city council and ultimately will come back to you as a referral. You also have the requirement for the storm drainage. That's a standard comment. And the remaining comments are just general conditions. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions for Jen? Well, it was a long time bringing this one around the corner, but
Arnold,
pretty straightforward resolution and
Arnie, excuse me, Kevin has a question.
I have a question.
I'm sorry.
Can we add something just to make sure they actually build the building before they turn it into a construction yard? So it doesn't end up like the Jamie's property, where next thing we notice, he's parking all the trucks and doing everything there. And
Yeah,
hasn't done anything like widening the road or putting the fences up or doing any of that stuff.
yeah, we can. I'm not entirely sure how to word that.
Because we have it happen a lot in town here where they
Yes,
get
we
these
do.
approvals and they use it as a construction yard and they never
I
do
know.
any of the stuff they said they were gonna do.
Correct, and we're chasing them down to actually do the site work. I completely agree.
I would say especially the widening of the road. If he's gonna
Yes.
start parking the country trucks up there, pump trucks up there in a couple weeks and he hasn't widened the road, it really
Right.
would be against what everybody was thinking.
We can add, Arnie, and I'm just kind of talking out loud, and if the commission has any other suggestions, and we can add this as a general condition.
yeah, that's a very good point, Ken. This is a timing issue or like a sequential. And like Kevin said, the widening of the road is the big thing up there. That's what we're getting here. And but can we compel them to do it in a particular order?
I think we can, certainly. I mean, they have 5 years to construct the project, but that doesn't give them the ability to operate without satisfying all of the conditions. And I understand your point. It is a timing issue. So yeah, I'm just trying to think of the best place to put it. Prior to.
That's not a permitting issue, is it, Jen?
It is a little bit, but what we can. Maybe something like all site improvements, including, and I'm writing as I'm saying this, all site improvements, including construction of building, landscaping, fencing, because again, that was important to screen the neighbors.
Jen, I hate to have you writing right now. I think we're okay in terms of timing. If you want to resubmit at the next meeting, after you have a chance to think about it a little, I hate to put you on the spot like this.
No, and I don't think we have any time left on this. We closed this in the beginning of December. So I think we need to do this today.
Okay.
So all site improvements, including construction of the building, landscaping, fencing, and right-of-way improvements. Right-of-way construction, sorry, shall be completed prior to prior to any site operations. Does that work, Kevin?
Yeah.
Jen, read that through one more time so everybody can.
Yep. Hold on, still writing. I can read my own handwriting. All site improvements, including construction of the building, landscaping, perimeter fencing, right-of-way construction shall be completed prior to any site operations.
What does site operations mean? Can you force them to do the road widening first before they do any of the other work? Can you make that you know, that the road widening and the right of way and all of that must be done prior to any other, I don't know, you know, land clearing or disturbance or something like that. Make them do so then if they end up just using it as a parking lot, at least the road is widening, and then they, you know, after 2 or 3 years, they make the building, but the road is done before they do disturb anything. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can. I mean, again, it's the commission's purview under 10C4, any additional conditions to comply with your findings. So if you want the applicant, I mean, we can say the following actions shall be taken prior to any land disturbance or alteration related to site improvements. We can move that number 15. 15?
So
We can move no, not 15, 14, I think. Ally, is it 14
Yes,
on the old?
I think it's 13, isn't
Is
it?
it? We
14
added a condition that we have since taken out that had to do with the engineering department, so my numbering is all off. So if it's 13 on yours, all work within the city right of way, we can
Yes.
move that 13, we can move that to the front prior to any land disturbance.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, what this group plan said, fairly quickly completed the site. Yeah, okay, this speaks to the road widening, yeah.
Yeah,
Concrete-
so we can move that to the front end instead of the back end.
Yeah, definitely do that. I'm way in favor of that. Of course, anyone else wants to chime in, please do, but you know, road
It's a-
widening is the big thing out there. We all know that.
Yep.
So
It
we
did-
can, yeah, so we can move number 13. I'd say let's figure out the conveyances first. So 6, 7, 8. So I would say probably it would be in number 9 and everything gets pushed.
Okay,
And then all site improvements, that first condition, I can add up to, to the top as a general condition. So that would be likely number 2. So I'm sorry, 1, 2, sorry, 3. It's number 3. I'm sorry.
number 3 under general condition. Okay, so I got the first one. Number
Yeah.
13, talking about the right of way, that becomes the new number 9, everything else pushed down. But the second one was what, Jen? I'm sorry.
The second one is going to be, so under number 3, so again, 1 is the project shall be developed in accordance with the maps, plans, and Exhibit A. 2, shall file the grant. The new number 3 is going to be that all site improvements, including construction of the building, landscaping, perimeter fence, right-of-way construction. Actually, we don't need the right-of-way, and the right-of-way construction shall be completed prior to any site operations. That will be the new number 3, and then everything moves down.
Okay, everybody got that?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay.
All right, okay, so,
Yeah, and then 13 will be the new 9.
right.
Okay.
All right. I guess it would be appropriate to make a motion to approve the draft resolution of approval with conditions as edited, amended, and revised.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to do that, unless you want to move things around a little more, I'll entertain a motion to that end.
I'll make a motion to approve the draft resolution that we went through tonight with all of the changes, amendments that we discussed here this
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you, Bob. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Helen. Okay, so a motion to approve the resolution of approval with conditions subject to the revisions, edits, amendments, and changes we made this evening. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, Jen, you got to get your editing pen out and get all that straight. So thank you on that one.
Yes, no, thank you. And thank you to Kevin, I think, and everyone else. I think they're great suggestions.
Okay, we're going to move to our referrals, the referrals portion of our agenda. The first one is an A3A referral petition.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you need number 2 under old business, guidance
Oh,
for Panera.
My bad, moving along too quickly here. Okay, earlier this evening, we moved the following item to number 2 under old business for discussion of possible action. Sugar Hollow Associates LLC, application for revised special exception revised site plan approval for the Shops at Marcus Dairy for 1 new standalone fast food restaurant, section 5A 2B16 with drive-through window, section 3E8, and 2 cumulative trip generation in excess of 500 vehicle trips per day, section 3E2 in the CG20 zone, 5 Sugar Hollow Road and Bacchus Avenue, G17002, special exception 663. Discussion. Anyone want to offer an opinion or give guidance to the department about your feelings on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'll start, I guess. I don't really have any issues with this application. They're just moving an existing, I guess we'll call it restaurant from the main building into the parking lot. Parking lot's getting some adjustments. Not much else is changing there. It's not going to create any additional traffic. So I don't really have any issues as long as staff is comfortable with all the plans there. And we get the FAA approval and the few other outstanding items there. I don't have any issues with this.
Thanks, Bob. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with that. I think we do have a few items we're still waiting for. But staff is comfortable that, those will all come through as is required and expected. So with that, I'm fine with approval.
Thanks, Helen.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree. I see no problem as long as those documents that they're waiting for come through and no other issues pop up in those things. I think we're fine to move forward.
Good. Anything, Kevin?
No, I have no problem with the project.
No, I agree. I know we're waiting for whatever the A2 survey, a couple of other things, renderings, but I'm comfortable moving forward. You got your guidance, Jen?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, now we will move to referrals. Item 1, it's an A3A referral petition 3775 LLC as applicant. 13 and unnumbered lot Pembroke Road G08029 owned by Robert Morsi, G08030 and G08098 owned by 3775 LLC. For change of zone from RA40 to RA20, zoning commission public hearing will be on March 14th, 2023. The staff report on this one, let's see here, was dated January 26th. And hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to look over it, and I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you have Sharon staff report dated January 26th. I am going to summarize this pretty quickly. This is fairly straightforward. This request is a petition to rezone 3 parcels from RA40 to RA20. It's located at 3 Pembroke Road. Many of you will recall the same petition back in August last year, but it was a rezoning from RA40 to RMF 4, I think. Is it 4? 10.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's 10. RMF 10, which was it was withdrawn by the applicant. The planning commission had given it a negative at that time, and they'd opened the hearing and then they withdrew. So, and they ended up meeting with staff, and from that meeting is what was submitted to the zoning commission. So in summary, it's 5.39 acres, which includes the right-of-way land at Pembroke Road. Land to the north and east is the Amber Room, west is the RA40, which is the Q. And then it's RMF 10 to the north, which is Stetson Place. Sharon notes the parcel sizes. I won't go through all of that. With respect to the density, the RA20 would allow 11 dwelling units compared to the RA40 at 5 units. Again, Sharon talks about that zoning scheme, that oddity, if you recall, there were 2 RA40 parcels left over, but those could certainly be rezoned in the future as well, and that would make them more conforming with the RA20 zone. With respect to the POCD, newly approved, this area has been designated appropriate for neighborhood residential, small to medium-sized lots. So it complies basically with the FLUM, the future land use map. Sharon notes, we're not losing any RA zoned property. That was one of the issues the last time. We didn't want to lose that RA land to the RMF. This is basically, the upzone allows for slightly higher densities where smaller homes on smaller lots would be constructed. This is the exact type of housing that was encouraged in the POCD. And it was actually, this specific area was discussed when we were talking about the future land use map. Sharon talks about the site criteria. I won't go through that. In summary, staff has no objection, and staff reminds the Planning Commission to state their findings on consistency with the plan and the reasons for the motion.
Thanks,
Any
Jen.
questions? I went through that very quickly. So if you have any questions, please ask.
Anything for Jennifer?
Mr. Chairman,
Perry?
I just wanted to say that I think it's pretty neat to see the planning process in motion, to see a compromise come out of this process, and one that achieves some of the goals of the POCD and allows us to add some of the needed housing and density. So thank you. That's great.
No, that's a good point. I was talking to Jennifer earlier when I said, when Francisco, when we were doing the POCD meetings, Francisco was talking about, 5,000 housing units. We're all like, where are we going to put them? Well, here's 10 of them, so we're moving in that direction. And no, it's true. It is consistent with the POCD. Any other questions for Jennifer or comments?
I just have one little concern about they kept mentioning, I know this is not our purview, but I guess I'm just gonna ask anyway, about the slopes being too steep. Would that be a showstopper in terms of any construction, or do you think it's minor?
No, I think their site engineer will be able to work around that. It's a constraint. So, whether it's, grading and constructing retaining walls or working with the contours of the land, we're not at the point where we would actually see how that would be achieved, but it would be up to the civil engineer to design that.
Okay, so at this point, you don't see it as any kind of showstopper in general?
No.
Thank you.
But I just happened to notice on page 2, the second paragraph, the last sentence, it does say, grading and other improvements required for lot development could further reduce any net increase. So I guess it was commented on.
Okay. Thank you.
Commission members, any other discussion or questions for Jennifer? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion if you're fine for a referral.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to give this referral, to make a positive referral on this. Thank you.
Positive referral for the referral. That's good.
Can you make sure that you state your reasons on the record and its consistency with the plan?
Sure. For the reasons outlined in the staff report, in the consistency with the plan of conservation and development.
Go. Motion
Thank
made. I hear a second.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hofstadter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Again, the motion is for a positive referral. So a yes is for a positive referral. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 This matter
Who
gets a
seconded? Who seconded? I missed that.
Hey, Helen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 2 under referrals, 838 referral, petition of South Park Properties LLC, 130, 132, 134, 136 South Street. J15059, J15058,
Mr.
J15058.
Chairman,
I was
Yes.
just gonna, I didn't want to interrupt. They withdrew.
they withdrew it like late this afternoon, early evening.
Okay, so, okay, that item is withdrawn.
Yes.
We're making progress here, folks. We're gonna go right to then. This one's a ZBA referral, application 22-29, OTROP Investments LLC, property owner, Mizuko Esquire and Lichtenauer Esquire agents. 61 Liberty Street, I-14304, RMF4 zone. Use variance, section 4B2 in accordance with sections 9C1A and 11B2B to allow change in use from one non-conforming use club to another non-conforming use restaurant serving liquor in the RMF4 zone. And section 3F2 to allow special permit use in the RMF4 zone. The ZBA public hearing is to be determined. And the report on this one, what's the date on that one? Hold on. Here it is. It was January 31st. And I'll turn it over to Jennifer. Jen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, and I'm going to spend a bit more time on this because the commissions don't get use variances very often. Although I think you had one last year for Rose Street. So can count on one hand the amount we've had in the last 10 years. So the ZBA received an application for use variance from Attorney Ward Mizuko, agent for the property owner, to allow a restaurant with the sale of alcoholic beverages in an existing building in the RMF4 district. The property is located at 61 Liberty Street. The sections to be varied, section 4B2 in accordance with 9C1A, to allow change in use from one non-conforming use to another, which is a club to a restaurant, in the RMF4 zone, and to allow by special permit in accordance with 3F2 the sale of alcoholic beverages in said restaurant. To note, in the RMF4 district, this is, as you know, a multifamily district within which restaurants and the sale of alcoholic beverages are prohibited. The tax assessor lot number, I've provided that. The size of the lot is a little over 10,000 square feet. It's pretty small. It contains an 8,700 square foot two-story building, commercial building. The lot is non-conforming in size for all uses other than residential, and the location of the building on the lot is non-conforming as it's within the setbacks for that zone, for the RMF zone.
And this is the old Sons of Portugal, right, Jen?
That is correct. It's, yeah, if you're coming from the train station, it's on the left-hand side, kind of across from Keeler Street.
Got it.
Okay. In accordance with 11B4A, this has been referred to both commissions, and actually the public hearing scheduled for next Thursday. The hardship given by the applicant, the property owner is the former home of the Sons of Portugal Club, a commercial use, and now hosts Our Lady of Aparecida. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Aparecida Pastoral Center. The property is served by a full commercial kitchen and bar, dumbwaiter, and several other fixtures and features specialized for restaurant use. Use of this property for use other than a restaurant causes a hardship because it would result in the underutilization of the on-site facilities. As noted earlier, the applicant's also requesting a variance to section 3F2, which again, that's a special permit. That's a section for special permits for the sale of alcohol. Again, it should be noted, there are no special permit uses allowed in the residential districts except in the RR10 and the PND. It's prohibited in all the other residential zones. Vehicular access is from Liberty Street. The building is almost at the front property line, and the remaining frontage is basically for the driveway. And which I note that the driveway opening is undersized based on an aerial photo. We know that there's approximately 16 parking spaces on site. And we deem the parking to be non-conforming as well because it fails to provide the landscape islands, and the parking's in the front yard. It's not clear if adequate parking is available for the intended use, as the seat and employee count were not provided with the application. Staff raises concern as to the number of seats for this size building. Based on the apparent number of existing parking spaces, the regulations would allow a maximum of 64 seats, likely less because we don't know the employee count, and that's what we need to determine the full amount of parking required for the restaurant. With respect to zoning and ownership history, again, I've provided that history. I'm not going to go through that. With respect to staff comments, as a reminder, because you don't see these very often, granting of a use variance extends a right to use property that is not extended to other landowners. A ZBA cannot grant a variance for a use which is inconsistent with the general purpose and intent of the zoning regulations, or which impairs the integrity of the comprehensive plan. Section 9C1A prohibits the changing of one non-conforming use to another. That's one of the variances they're requesting. And additionally, Attorney Mizuko noted in his application, he's requesting 11B2B, which prohibits a commercial or industrial use to be permitted by variance in the RMF zones or the R3 zone, except if it was previously used for commercial or industrial purposes. The ZEO has determined that the club/community center is deemed a commercial use. As such, the section isn't applicable. But we note that the variance still has to meet the required conditions for issuance. Per section 9A, the intent of the regulations regarding nonconformities is to recognize the right of non-conforming uses to continue, but to encourage that such lots are brought into conformity as soon as possible. The applicant's request for a use variance to allow a restaurant with the sale of alcoholic beverages does just the opposite. In this case, it allows a potentially more intense use of the site, notwithstanding the previous uses. Given the intense nature of the restaurant with the sale of alcoholic beverages and the potential for impacts in the intrusion into the residential neighborhood, this variance would allow a use that could reasonably be found to be contrary to the intent of the regulations. Furthermore, the hardship claimed by the applicant, the use of this property causes hardship because it would result in the underutilization of the on-site facilities, does not meet any of the hardship conditions set forth in the regulations, granting of the variance. Given similar existing club and religious uses in the neighborhood, the commissions may be hard pressed to conclude the issuance of a variance to allow a restaurant on this lot meets the required conditions for approval. The variances are granted. Other lots in non-residential use in that zone may seek similar relief. Again, you give it to one, you're going to be giving it, someone else is going to ask. With respect to the POCD, so the 2023 future land use map designates this parcel as downtown mixed use. And if you recall, the downtown mixed use area incorporates Danbury's central business district. One of the strategies, I'm sure you recall, strategy recommended in the POCD is to extend the CBD zone, not just to include the TOD area, but also in accordance with the future land use map. Since the CBD zone provides a less restrictive use regulations and allows restaurants, it's a permitted use with the sale of alcoholic beverages, it's a reasonable zoning alternative to granting this use variance. Again, the use variance runs with the land, it's forever. So again, there's a feasible alternative. Rezoning, albeit creating an odd zoning scheme, would be more consistent with the POCD rather than, again, issuing that use variance. Allowing the proposed restaurant use by variance and exasperating or intensifying the use with the sale of alcoholic beverages in a public setting, in a public restaurant setting, is contrary to the purpose and intent of the RMF zone and should be avoided. So in conclusion, this request for a use variance in conjunction with the other requested variance to 3F raises several issues and concerns. These include allowing a more intense non-conforming commercial use, whether the ZBA can even find that there is a required hardship, compliance with the purpose and intent of the RMF district and POCD, and lack of on-site parking to accommodate the two-story structure. A reasonable alternative exists to the issuance of the use variances. For these reasons, staff recommends denial of the use variance and respectfully requests the commissions include the staff report with their respective report to the ZBA. Sorry, that was really long-winded, but there was quite a bit I wanted to get through. So I will entertain any questions.
So if they came back in to rezone to CBD, that's not spot zoning, right? Is it contiguous with other CBD pieces? I didn't look at the zoning map, so I don't know. I mean,
No, so it would be CBD across the street. So across from Liberty Street is where the line ends at the center line of the street.
Okay. But so it's adjoining or adjacent or whatever the word is. Okay.
Correct. And it would be consistent with the future land use map.
Okay.
And consistent with the POCD, the goals and strategies.
Okay. So if they rezoned it, it would be consistent with the POCD.
That's correct. Again, the preferred alternative to a use variance.
Anyone, any questions or further comments? Go ahead, Bob. We'll go with Bob, then to Perry.
So I read that it said it's used as a club or was a club. But it's really a pastoral center, which I don't know what the difference is. Do you know anything about that? And because like a church, I think is okay. Those kinds of things are okay in the RMF4, but the club isn't. So I don't know if that's just, I'm kind of being picky there. So is it really a non-conforming use currently? Would be one question.
If I can, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Based off the CEO's letter from last year, May 2022, he had noted that the Catholic Church Community Center is the pre-existing non-conforming use. And again, we don't have a use for a community center. So given its long-standing history as a club, the Sons of Portugal Club, he had said club/community center. That's pre-existing non-conforming. That can continue. They're allowed to, under the non-conforming status, they're allowed to continue.
I get that. I feel like the pastoral center should be an okay use in that zone, but maybe not. Anyways, I guess my comments are, we really shouldn't, go from one, approve another non-conforming. We shouldn't change that. So I wouldn't be in favor of this at all. It doesn't really make sense there. Although if you look at some of the neighbors there, I mean, you have right next door is like an auto service center, and across the street is a auto dealership, it looks like, which I don't know how that works in RMF4 unless that's non-conforming too. It sounds like a lot of things on this road would be non-conforming, but I don't think we should make it more non-conforming. So I guess in a nutshell, that in a roundabout way, I guess that's what I would have to say.
Any other comments or thoughts? Perry, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought the staff report was well reasoned, and I can see the intent of the applicant, which is not so far off, the intent of the POCD. So I think it's pretty straightforward, the reasons why we wouldn't be able to grant this variance. But again, I'm glad to see that there's an alternative method that, might accomplish something similar. And as I was reading, I saw, it's a shame that area seems like a good area, for this type of use. So it's nice to know, that does match what we put on the future land map, future land use map, and does match with the POCD. So hopefully the applicant will pursue with the department that method of accomplishing something similar.
Thanks, Perry. Anyone else? Comment?
I agree with what was said, that the better alternative is to rezone it and not to do these variances, which are make it more intense of, non-conforming than it already is. So I would also deny this and hope that, they take advantage of the other alternative.
Anything else? Okay, this is a referral, so we have to have a positive or a negative referral to ZBA. Just a reminder, if somebody makes a motion for a negative referral, an aye vote is for the negative referral. A no vote is not for the negative referral, but not necessarily a positive. Remember that whole mess. So with that, unless there's any other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
And please state your reasons on the record, please.
Anyone want to jump in on this big one?
I'll make the motion to deny this application.
Well, a
on the
negative referral, a negative referral.
Negative.
Negative referral on the basis that it exacerbates already non-conforming uses with more intense non-conforming uses, and that there are other options available to the applicant that are more in conforming with the POCD going forward. Did I cover it all, Jennifer?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Helen. Is a motion has been made for a negative referral. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sylvain. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I will take a vote again. I vote is for a negative referral. A no vote is not for a negative referral. Everyone in favor of a negative referral, please say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Opposed? This matter gets a negative referral. Okay, let's keep.
Thank
moving up.
you.
One other item under new business that we'll be hearing in April, sort of interesting one at 30 Main Street, what we used to call next to the old Hess gas station. Pretty big project there. They're going to look to convert, that big office building next to it. I still call the Hess gas station. I don't know what it is now, but they'll keep the bank on the lower level, put apartments above that, and then another big apartment building behind that. Sort of interesting. We'll take a look at that one. Under correspondence, we'll go right to other matters for discussion and possible action. Discussion and possible action on A, request from Attorney Neil Marcus to extend the approval of Savannah Hills re-subdivision, 193-207 Great Plain Road, subdivision 0609, re-subdivision, and B, issuance of proposed notice of expiration of re-subdivision. And we did get a resolution on this commission member dated January 26th, a resolution of denial. And with that said, Jen, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first page covers the whereases, which is the history of this project, of this subdivision. I will not go through those. The last section on the first page, now therefore be it resolved. The commission has considered the opinion of the Office of the Corporation Counsel and determines that the date of the re-subdivision approval on December 5th, 2012 is controlling as to the expiration date. Be it further resolved that based upon said date, the applicant under Connecticut General Statute Section 8-26c is not eligible for any additional extensions of time, that the re-subdivision expired on December 5th, 2022, and therefore the request for the extension of time is denied. Be it further resolved, the applicant is hereby on notice that it must file a new application for subdivision of the subject parcels in accordance with the subdivision regulations to proceed with development of the land, and that no additional lots in the re-subdivision shall be conveyed by the subdivider or his successor in interest until such time as the new application is approved by the commission. And be it further resolved, in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 8-26c, the commission hereby authorizes the planning director or her designee 2, 1, provide a written notice of expiration of Savannah Hills re-subdivision to the applicant. Number 2, file said notice of expiration on the city land records. 3, state, excuse me, state such expiration on the re-subdivision plan on file in the town clerk's office. 4, publish said notice of expiration in the News Times. Any questions?
This one got awfully complicated, didn't it?
Oh, yes, it did.
All right. Okay, any questions for Jen?
No.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Who was that? No one, okay, I'm sorry. So we have a resolution of denial of request for additional extension of Savannah Hills re-subdivision approval. So Jen, I'm trying to think, would we make a motion to deny the request for extension or a motion to approve the resolution of denial?
Well, that's a good question. I think the resolution
it.
accomplishes that, but you can make a motion to deny the request for the extension of time and authorize staff to proceed as per numbers 1 through 4 of the resolution dated January 26, 2023.
But that's what the other motion was at the previous meeting. Shouldn't they say something about the resolution?
I'm sorry, what?
Does the
Shouldn't they
resolution,
approve the resolution?
Yes. So as part, again, it's the motion to approve. Yes.
okay, so
Motion to approve the resolution.
a little weird, we're approving a resolution of denial,
Correct.
which is sort of the equivalent of a motion to deny, but not quite. So if you can all sort that one out, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution of denial and, give staff the authority to what, Jen?
To do items 1 through 4.
Yes.
To do items, well, yeah, that's, which is baked right into the resolution. Okay, anyone want to?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve the resolution of denial and permit the staff to move forward with items 1 through 4 as listed on the resolution.
Very well put, Mr. Sultan.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Helen, second. Setter. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution of denial is approved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Sorry for the confusion on the motion.
Oh, no, it's good. It was good.
No problem. We're right into item 2, another timing issue here. Request for 5-year extension of site plan approval in accordance with Public Act 21-163, 80 Mill Plain Road, special exception 652. Approved April 1st, 2009. 5-year extension granted to April 1st, 2023. Wow, going way back again. And we did get a couple of letters which were distributed. Jennifer, it's all yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So based off of the additional research from the Office of Corporation Counsel, and we'll have, I think, 4 more of these requests. There's 3 at the next meeting, but this is they've been waiting the longest.
There's something to look forward to, Jen.
Yes.
That's a joke, by the way.
I know. There'll be easy items on the agenda, I promise. So this approval, this was a special exception approval granted in 2009, again, SE 652. Based on statutes and the extension that was granted, they had until April 1st, 2023. Under the new Public Act, they get an additional 5 years, which would then bring them to April 1st, 2028. Staff has no objection to the commission approving said request.
Any questions for Jennifer, commission members? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the request for 5-year extension.
I'll make a motion to approve the extension.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The request for 5-year extension is approved. Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead, Jen.
No, I just said thank you.
Only, again, Blackman Enterprises, that'll be February 15th, some other things. And I guess that's about it. Unless there's anything else or anyone wants to stay a little longer, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Right, second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Good
This-
work, everyone. Good work.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Got some stuff done.
Lot done. Got a lot
Yes.
done.
All right, thank you all.